Hey everyone, welcome to Horrible Gaming. My name is Nora and on today's video we are doing a more in-depth road tutorial. If you are new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I sure hope you hit that like and subscribe button. We are also in this video going to be breaking down the basics to road placing. I did do a different video on this, but it wasn't as in-depth, so I hope that this updated video helps you and also answers a lot of your questions. The first road design we are using is by Kokiri. We use her roads quite a bit on my channel. She also has a new one that I'll be adding right after we place this first one, and also talk about some tips too. So I will be basically going all over the place through this video on placement. It's not going to be like I'm planning an island build, but I am going to start the first road by the entry to give you a general idea. If you are somebody who wants to start a Citycore and doesn't know how to go about an entry, maybe this can give you a little kickstart. My very first thing I suggest you do before ever starting a Citycore is by organizing your roads. This is going to make the road codes look a lot less overwhelming when you're trying to figure out how to place them. It's just going to make finding your pieces a lot easier. So I will have all these road codes organized for you so you can kind of see where the placement needs to be for each location. I am going to be starting the entry right here as a highway style, so we're going to have two long strips of road, and then I'm going to teach you how to finish off the corners of this. Let's say that this spot that we're doing right now is at the edge of your island, you don't know how to end your road, etc. We will be doing that in a second. You can also continue this long road strip to any area on your island and also where you need to transition. We'll also be doing angles too, so if you are somebody who is struggling with how to do fancy angles on your road, don't worry, this will have it. So crossing Kokiri's road is a little complex, so I decided to start with this one first because the placement of this road is going to be very similar to the other fancy angles that we're going to be using on the other creators' designs. I also wanted to tell you that you saw that I placed that white line first, and that is one way you can use her design. You can also use her design without the white line too. As you can see, I have removed that and I added some details like road cracks and then some petals. You don't have to obviously do that, but that is an option with road placing. It also saves you a couple extra design slots too. So if I wasn't going to use her white line, that gives me 4 extra design slots. And as you know, having design slot space is very important, especially if you're doing a Citycore. So definitely make cuts on designs as you can. I'm also going to show you a little trick that I've learned too with road placing. So what I like to do on Citycore is map out basically where I want my roads at and like the locations and transition spots. I do that a lot on all my Citycores. Then you'll notice once I get the base done, I start kicking up paths, and this is where I start prepping where I want my details. We're not going to do this on every single creator's road design, but I wanted to give you a general idea on how decor transforms a design. So right now I'm just going to prep this with some greenery and then some fencing to give you a general idea on how the highway could look and transition. If I was going to keep this build, I would definitely make the crosswalks lead up to some apartments, or maybe you could also let that lead over to your plaza depending on where your plaza location is. Depending on your island space at the entry, just make adjustments with the road as you can. And I'll definitely show you some other styles that we can do too with each road design. But for crossing Kokiri's road today, we are going to be doing the angles in a highway style. So let's pretend that this spot right here is either the edge of an island, or we need to frame this road off so we can transition to an incline without it looking weird. Sometimes when you place a road, it doesn't always line up with your incline, so this is like a good way to cut off the road design and be able to frame out where you want to do a build in an incline, etc. So crossing Kokiri's road actually has 2 options, and I'm not sure if she actually did this on purpose or if this is just a me thing, but I like to save space on my codes, and I actually do what we're doing right now on every single Citycore. I am using the inner pieces, which are usually used for the diagonal parts of the road, like when you're doing fancy angles, as my corners and finishing. So this is kind of how the actual corners look when you use those designs versus the inner parts. I have now saved 4 more design slots in my custom design area, and now I have the option of more space. So that is why I always leave those pieces out. Some people prefer the square finishing, but if you are somebody like me and likes to focus a lot of detail into your Citycore builds, definitely go with the angled pieces for your fancy road angles as your finishing edges. It'll just save you so much more space in the long run. Crossing Kokiri also has a non-cherry blossom option in this MA code, so if you aren't doing the cherry blossom theme, don't worry, you have the option to use the road without the petals. So now we are looking at these 4 slots over here, and we have several road pieces that are going to be used for the transition spots with the angles right here. I am now going to frame off this area as if we were going to transition to a build or an incline as mentioned earlier. So let's go ahead and just fill this in, and then now you're going to see me start placing angled pieces. This is really tricky at first, but I promise it gets really easy once you do it a bajillion times. So remember those pieces we used to frame off the trees that were angled? We're using them once again, and this is where you usually use those pieces to frame off the angled parts. As you can see, they work great for what we needed by the fence and tree, and this is going to definitely save you a lot of design slot space. So we're going to go ahead and fill in those gaps, and then once again, I am going back to where the road angle piece is and filling that in. Once we finish that, we are able to finally detail the rest of the area. As mentioned earlier, when using road codes, if you can compromise and use less pieces, that's going to be your best friend when you're doing a Citycore. If you are like me and you want your design space to basically spread out and have a lot of options later on as you build, definitely go that route. If you are somebody who would rather focus on details on the road, keep all the pieces and, adjust it to your liking. The next part to using Crossing Kokiri's road design for this MA is to finish off where the sidewalk starts to angle. And this is why I love this design, because I loved how she focused so many details into the road angles. The other designs that we're going to be using will not have these pieces. So if you are somebody who can't afford a design with this many slots, don't worry, you have another option with fancy angles coming up. So anyways, let's go ahead and finish this off and I'll show you how it looks. Before we import the next creator design over Crossing Kokiri's, I'm going to quickly show you how to do a long ways angle. So if I wanted to do an angled road that's really long and not like this small transition spot we just did, I'm going to go ahead and start mapping out where I need the transition to be. So I'm using the corner piece right here where the sidewalk is and a piece of the road, and we're just going to go ahead and map out how we want the road to be. Once I finish that spot, I'm going to go ahead and quickly do the left side in the similar way. Once we do that, we're going to use the same diagonal inner pieces that we've been using through this video to finish off the empty spots. After that, all we have to do is start filling in all the blank squares. And with this transition, what I love to do on angled roads in general, I love using trees and shrubs to kind of like transition where the road starts to angle, just kind of add some more details. If you want to see what I mean, I suggest going over to my Instagram, which is linked in the video's description, and visiting all the dream addresses for Citycore in my DA highlight, and highlights are the clickable circles that I label, and you'll get to see kind of how I detail and decorate around these roads that we're placing throughout the video. This will give you some ideas on also how to transition with them too. So let's go ahead and quickly fill this in and transition to our next design for today's video. So the next road that we have is still by Crossing Kokiri. This is her second MA, and this is a bonus design I wanted to add because this is a little bit more modern. We have this really nice gray tone and also a really lovely track design. So if you're doing something more modern, you may really like this design. So let me go ahead and overlay over her current design. It's really easy. We're just going to save the similar angles on top of each other, and you can kind of see how this road looks and what changes we'll need to make. As you can see, I've had to remove some of the angled pieces because this road doesn't require the same angles like the first one. So I'm just going to go ahead and overlay where we need to finish off, and this is the sidewalk pieces right here, and it's really easy to place. We're just going to go ahead and fill in any empty spots, and instead of that road piece with the tile and road edge, this is just going to be a sidewalk. So that is what's different with this design. Obviously, this MA has a lot more pieces than her other one, but it's definitely worth it if you are somebody wanting to go with something a little more modern and you need a light gray road. With that being said, let me go ahead and show you how this looks completely filled in. So here is how her second MA looks with this road design. I am super in love with this. She did a great job. Crossing Kokiri is one of my favorite creators, so make sure you give her some love and a follow. Don't forget to go check her out in the video's description. So the next MA I'm gonna share with you is one of my great friends named Tropikitch. Let's say that you are somebody not wanting to do a complex road like we have been doing for the last two designs. You need something a little more simple because you want to put a lot of detail into your builds. Trust me, y'all, you are gonna love this design. She has put a ton of detail into it. So let's go ahead and pull this up and start placing it and give you a general idea on how you could do an entry or a transition with it. If you are somebody new to Citycore and you've never done that at all, do not go straight to the fancy angled roads. They're very hard, especially if you're new to Citycore. And even though we've done a tutorial, definitely just start here first and work yourself up to it. I highly recommend Tropikitch's roads because hers is by far one of the most realistic, simple roads that I have ever seen. Tropikitch focuses a lot on her builds, which is different. Me personally, I put a lot of thought into like my road designs, but she puts thought into her builds. So if you are somebody who would rather save as much design space as possible, go with this option. She also does a lot of NPC styled builds and has a lot of amazing custom designs. So definitely make sure you go check her out in the video's description and go give her a follow. I have all the creators that we are featuring today linked. So definitely make sure you go support these creators and give them a lot of likes and support. Also, why is it every single time I do a video for y'all, one of my villagers does this to me? Marshall, go away. We are working here. We are teaching people how to place roads. We cannot talk. I do not want your used sweater or item. Maybe if I ignore him, he'll leave me alone. Alright, so it seems like Marshall's letting us get back to our tutorial. So anyways, where was I? Okay, so we are basically gonna pretend that this is an entry. And let's say you're going for the simple road effect like this. And actually, you do not have to use the long yellow and white lines like this. You can definitely do a different style. I'm just used to placing my center lines like this, but I'll show you another way you can use them as well. Anyways, right now I am placing some sidewalk down, and this is just gonna add more detail to her build. These are included in her MA, and the darker one is some concrete. And honestly, what I would do on each side of this road entry, like let's say this is going to be definitely your entry or transition area in general, there are so many options. You could do inclines on each side. You could use this for a village or home transition. You could also use this for some Citycore builds. And this is why I love simple roads, because it's easier to map out and plan out your locations. I find when I use my angle roads, I struggle a lot with how my placement is going to be, and I have trouble planning my locations at times. And I do remember when I started using roads, especially with just simple angles like this before we had our custom design slot update, it was a lot easier for me to plan locations. So again, if you are a newbie to Citycore, go with this option. Trust me, it'll be a lot easier for you to learn how to do an urban styled island. So now I am going to show you how to transition from this kind of style for an entry, and this would work for any road code. It's not just limited to her design. You can use any road design with this style, but I'm going to make this into like a long way street, and we can also finish the edge off as if like this was the edge of our island. Maybe your dodo is really close to the edge of your map and you don't have a lot of space. This is how we finish off the road for her design. And again, I would do some sort of Citycore build, maybe put my villager home there, or even my own house. You have a ton of options with this layout, and I would obviously frame where the bottom sidewalk is with some fencing, maybe a utility pole, some garden benches, the list goes on. Definitely decorate this to your own style. What I love about this road is it looks absolutely stunning in the fall season. I love how she's added that little fall leaf design. So you will love this because of the rusty colors for fall. But as you can see, it looks great in springtime grass too. So if you're in spring, don't worry about using the fall leaf. But I think I remember her mentioning on Instagram she wants to do several different seasons with this. So we'll see what she adds to it. As of right now, this is the only crosswalk to her design. I'm not sure if she's gonna add more to them yet, but I hope she does because it'll be really great for that transition spot in between those two trees. You could put some crosswalks over there. So another thing I love to do on my roads is putting leaf piles everywhere. Depending on what season you are in, choose the leaf pile appropriate for it. Don't be afraid to use several because this adds more details to the road itself and it just fills it in more. So if you are someone who doesn't like a cluttered island and you like something that's not laggy, this is a great detail without making it super laggy. I also love using manhole covers. I place them everywhere on my roads. And then I also think we're gonna go ahead and relocate this tree, and behind the tree we will frame with some fencing. Again, as you frame this area, it would be great for villagers, or maybe where the drain is, you can place an incline leading up to a different spot on your Citycore. There's so many options with this layout. So I definitely recommend this layout, not only just for this road, but for any Citycore. If you are having trouble planning out an entry, you don't really know what else to do, and you want something super simple and easy, do this. Don't forget to check out Tropikitch in the video's description and go give her some follows and likes. Let's go ahead and now transition to our last road design and entry idea for this video. The next road is by Gamito, and I probably pronounced that wrong, so I apologize, but this is actually the same road that I used on my last dream address, and you can find that dream address on my Instagram. We just released it. I kind of did like a countryside Japanese island, and so she made me several parts for that island, so thank you so much for making that road my dream road for that island. It is definitely one of the most detailed roads I think I've ever used. So for this entry, we are gonna kick it up a notch. We are gonna do an immediate angle at the entry. So let's go ahead and start getting those codes ready and placing them. Just like crossing Kokiri's roads, we are going to be having a lot of angled pieces again. But these ones are different. They are just the white lines. They're actually really easy to use. So I think you'll enjoy this code for that reason. They're not as confusing. But all these creators shown today are super talented. I absolutely love all their roads. So definitely go check each creator out. If you want to recreate this for your island, what I would do is on these sides, we would do some Japanese styled apartments, and then that part right in front of us where the road has a big square in the middle, we would probably do either a transition area, maybe that's your plaza, depending on location. Maybe we could put our villagers there. There's a lot of options with this layout too. This layout is definitely more cozy, so if you don't want a laggy, cluttered island, I would definitely not go this route. But if you like to focus on detail, something very similar to what I usually do on my Japanese city islands, I would definitely recommend this kind of layout if you're wanting to go for that kind of a style. Just like with our other road designs that we showcased tonight, placing the details is by personal preference. I'm just going to throw these here to fill it in, but you can definitely choose your own location for each of these. I just wanted to show you how all the designs look together, and I really do love how she has added so many details to this. The crosswalks are just perfect looking. I'm just really in love with this design. I hope that in the future maybe she'll release us a darker shade of gray or maybe even a black road. That would be really awesome to have those colors in here. So something I really love doing when I'm doing transition spots, sometimes I want extra greenery. So I have those two empty squares right there for trees and shrubs. So we're gonna go ahead and start mapping out where we want our greenery and go ahead and place it. And then you'll see how I end up transitioning with those details too. I really like using trash items on all of my city cores just because it fills details in and adds extra clutter. Obviously in Japan, they're really good about not having trash anywheres, but that's just kind of like my personal preference. And then I'm gonna pretend that, again, this is the airport, and we're gonna go ahead and place on each side of the hedge 2 lanterns. And I love doing this with Japanese islands. It just really does add to the entry itself. So right here, I'm gonna make it like a little bus stop. I would definitely use the OK Motors sign on the other side of it. This would be a perfect little nook right there to do that. And then, like I said earlier, behind this, I would probably either do apartments, you could do an incline to a transition to a other location. There's a lot of options with this entry, so definitely just, decorate around this to your personal preference. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Let me know your favorite road design and entry in the comment section below. I will probably be late on my video this week. I usually post every 3 days, but I'm going to be taking a small social media break. My mental health has been pretty hard this week and I need to do some self-care. So I will be back in a few days. So if you don't see me posting that often after this video, do not worry. I also need to figure out what I'm building for my Instagram because I have a lot of followers who don't go to YouTube. They only are on Instagram. So I need to figure out my next build and dream address for them. So hopefully I get some inspiration because lately I have had zero inspo to play, mostly because I don't really know what I want to build yet. And I have like this weird trial phase after every theme I do. So hopefully, you know, in a day or so, I'll be back on my normal building zone. I also finally got Minecraft. Yes, I finally got Minecraft, not Animal Crossing. Super crazy. And I'm really excited to mess on that and learn the mechanics. I really would love to start sharing some Minecraft builds once I get good at it because right now I'm a total noob. The last thing I want to add, if you're one of my regular followers, you may have noticed that my swamp video got taken down. Sadly, somebody spam reported literally all of my YouTube videos the other day and Nintendo ended up removing several of my videos. Anyways, I'm super sorry that if you were somebody looking forward to seeing that tour, that video has now been removed. Anyways, that's it for today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed all the inspo and ideas for each entry that we did, and I hope y'all have a horrible day. See you next video.